All right, what's up? Gonna be talking about what I think makes a good monster today, what factors play in part to defining them as something that is strong, defining them as a good monster to have in your setup. So yeah, to start off, I think the first thing when you think about when you see a monster is their damage output, right? You look at them, you see this ridiculous amount of um, damage that can be achieved from multiple parts of the map, and I think there's a lot of factors that play in that, right? Stuff that's more important, like flat damage, stuff that's less important, like the element they're associated with. But I think the three main factors that can apply throughout pretty much all of the game is flat damage, right? The damage from their basic attacks, then from their attack range, from the speed that it's done, as well as then you also have factors like their ability, whether it multiplies or not. Something like Amaterasu or Felina's ability, it becomes a global attack that is also multiplied in damage. Or if it's something like Jiraiya, who has a less frequently used global attack, but basically infinite map range that can access anywhere from the map. So what I want to say with this is that damage output is not just defined by attack damage, right? You want to think about how much damage can that monster output from where they're best placed on the map, right? Something like Jiraiya does like around like half the damage that Amaterasu's flat attack damage does, right? But Jiraiya is able to output damage from anywhere on the map, making him still like very, very strong, and also have an ability that is capable of multiplying damage, right? And with these mythic monsters, right, Amaterasu, Jiraiya, who are basically solidified as like the best damage dealers in the game, right? Full map access, a lot of flat damage, not bad attack speed, global damage, again, global damage with the multiplier, all that stuff. You still want to think about other monsters that are capable of getting very good damage even without those factors, right? Something like a Crispy is going to be a really strong damage dealer. Why? Because he has full map access. There is way more monsters that does more damage than Crispy, monsters with better multipliers, but the fact that Crispy is one of the few monsters in the game that does have full map access means that he will do more damage than other monsters in a lot of situations, right? Like you see here, I'm doing King 1-5. If I were to put like a level 500 Susanoo instead of a Crispy, well, that's not a good answer because I have Susanoo here already. But if I were to put something down such as a maxed Kevin over Crispy, right? That Kevin probably doing more damage than this Crispy is right now. However, Crispy has full map access, which means that he'll be doing more damage than Kevin because, as you see, no enemies coming to this part of the map. But Crispy's still able to attack even though no enemies are coming to this part of the map, making him have more damage than if I were to put a Kevin here. Same sort of situation with Felina, same sort of situation with Evolved Archimedes. Like, these global abilities really matter. They really make the monster a better damage dealer. Being a damage dealer is not just about being a carry in elemental challenges, being a carry in the early to late game. It's also being able to see how much damage can they output in regular farming, how much damage can they output when you don't place them as your carry, and when you just have them in the backline or maybe in the mid row. What value do they have there? And I think that's a really, really overlooked factor when you're thinking about what makes a monster strong, right? Because normally you just look at like, for example, when you take a look at Evolved Poseidon has the same flat attack damage as Amaterasu, right? However, why don't you use that Evolved Poseidon over something like a Jiraiya and IQT? Why don't you use it over an Amaterasu sometimes if his basic attack is doing the same damage? And he's also able to buff other units as well. And I think, again, it's because doesn't have global map access, doesn't have a damage multiplier, and those two factors really play a big part in their damage dealing overall, right? It's not just about how much damage can they do an enemy that's right in front of them, it's about how much damage they can do to an enemy overall. And I think that's just the main point, the main points when you are thinking about a monster as a damage dealer. But what if that monster isn't a damage dealer? Why is the monster strong if they can't dish out damage, if they don't have global map access? Why are they still good? Why are they still viable to use? And I think this starts to be a little bit more complicated when it comes to this, because you start focusing on more specific maps, more specific abilities, right? Something like Susanoo, you're only going to use in stuff like elemental challenges, like not you're only going to use in elemental challenges, but Susanoo is at like the ability to resummon rocks is at its best when it is used in elemental challenges, where you normally need to constantly play and be actively playing to resummon rocks, right? You need to actively use a lot of gems, whereas if you just put a Susanoo in there, save a lot of gems, you can AFK and that's where Susune is really strong, right? Even though Susune's damage isn't good, I don't think the very fast attack speed is accurate either. But the ability to be able to resummon rocks is really strong, and you know, as a utility, it's really good, right? Something like a Zeus. Zeus is as a damage dealer, right? Damage is not as good as Amaterasu, is not as good as Jiraiya's, but he does bonus damage to IQT minions. He also provides a very strong stun. Also provides, you know, chain attacks. That's another factor when you're thinking about who can do more damage. You want to look at the attack patterns, right? Something like a Jiraiya. His basic attack will be piercing through enemies, right? So you'll be able to hit more than one enemy. Or as something like, something like, I guess like a Kevin won't be doing, you know, that full AoE type of damage, right? I think that's a bad example because again, Jiraiya is going to be the better unit overall. There's such a massive gap between the damage of those two. But I think also paying attention to shot patterns really important. You know, seeing if there are lingering shots like Hades, you know, full surround AoE shots like Poseidon, again, chain attacks like Zeus, whether it's a board wipe like Amaterasu or Felina, whether it's global but just 3 targets like Crispy, all that sort of stuff really matters. And again, going back to utility, specific map use is going to be really important, right? Like if you have a Ra, I don't have him here, but he has the ability to prevent your units from being frozen, right? So Ra's really strong. You just need to make sure that you're using him in the right way, that you're using him in IQT, or that you're using him to possibly save a little bit time for max efficiency classic level farming, right? Stuff like that. And so when you are taking a look at utility units, you know, maybe full map stuns, unique attack pattern stuns, or maybe you know, a unique ability, you need to think a little bit more about applying it to the specific map you're playing, rather than just, you know, flat damage is always gonna, or sorry, not flat damage, but you know, being able to have good damage is just really good in every stage of the game, right? Whereas utility is more more specific to which part of the game you're on and what you're trying to do and what your overall strategy is. And utility is really there to round out your comp, to really support those main damage dealers, right? Stuff like Anubis is really strong, right? Anubis doesn't do it any sort of surprising amount of damage, but Anubis has an ability that enables your other monsters to do a lot of damage, making them really, really strong, right? So the damage value you're getting from Anubis, that 500% damage multiplier, I don't think it's 500%. I think like 5 times. There's weird damage stacking in the game, but that's going to be more valuable than just putting in another sort of damage dealer like Kevin, right? Something that just does, you know, flat regular damage. Anubis is going to be able to multiply the highest damages in the game to even higher amounts that wouldn't be achievable if you just put another DPS monster in there. But that's pretty much all I want to talk about for this video. Just, you know, paying attention to what makes a monster strong, trying to not get I guess deceived by looking at flat damage numbers, and understanding that there's more behind a monster's value than their damage, than their stun, all that sort of stuff, than, you know, flat values. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Like, subscribe, and see ya.